Marc Jackson, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Pre- and post-game live. You'll see him Saturday and Monday for the Sixers and Wizards, Game 3 and 4. And he joins me now to take a look back at the first two games of this series and see if the Wizards can make any adjustments. Mark, we know the NBA is about adjustments come playoff time. Do you see an adjustment that the Wizards can make, though, in this series? It looks like defensively they've got a lot of matchup problems.
Unfortunately for the Wizards, without Russell Westbrook being 100% healthy, no matter what kind of adjustment they make, they might not have the personnel and the horses to run with the Sixers. And I think over a period of an entire game, they will slow down no matter how well Bradley Beal plays.
Now, in terms of adjustments from them, like last night from Game 1 to Game 2, it sounded like Doc Rivers said, look, they defended us differently, and that's why we saw a different Ben Simmons. Of course, that's been all the talk today. Wow, he was more aggressive. This is the guy we need. You know, in Game 1, he generated 48 points, but he barely scored. Last night, he only generated 40 points, but he scored a lot more. So is there a better version of Ben, or does it not matter, or the fact that the Wizards defended him differently? Like, this is obviously such a polarizing discussion.
Well, here's the thing. I know Doc's going to say they defended him differently. No. Ben was super aggressive last night. And why was he super aggressive? Because he understands he didn't have a productive night offensively. Did he do a lot of other things? Yes, absolutely. But in the long scheme of things, Ben needs to be offensively aggressive from beginning to end. And that's important for this team to maintain success.
Which is interesting because, as we mentioned, he has the 15 assists. Curry and Green scored 26 points. Harris scores 37. I'm always in the mindset, Mark, I don't care who scores or where they get the points from, if you win the game. If they don't win the game, that's where, like, if Green and Curry aren't shooting well, I agree that Ben needs to be more aggressive if they're not. But they hit 6 threes in Game 1, so it's almost like if you guys are going to shoot threes, I'll let you keep shooting. Is that not a recipe?
So here's the thing. I think you need Ben, Tobias, and Joel to be offensively aggressive. Now, they don't have to shoot a good percentage, but they have to constantly maintain the same momentum, head down, get buckets. And then everything else will just fall into play. Curry, Danny Green, Shake, Furkan, they're going to make shots off and on. It's going to be rare that all those guys hitting their shots from beginning to end all at the same time. If that was the case, they'd be the Golden State Warriors of old. So that's not the case. But with that being said, the three consistent things has to be Ben, Joel, and Tobias got to be offensively aggressive, and that helps everything else and everyone else fall into place.
I know there was a big collective holding of the breath when Tobias Harris went out. But, Mark, I want to ask you, so many people said, look, in the regular season, I need to see him in the playoffs. I got to see him do what he was. Because the regular season, I think people said, man, that was a different Tobias Harris. Have you seen enough from Tobias Harris to think in big moments and in playoff games that we're going to consistently get this guy?
I do. I believe that he understands the playoffs. He's stepping up. And he also is, once again, still using the fuel of not being named an all-star. So I look at it like this. Any means necessary. Anything you need to motivate you to step up to the plate and come through when it's time to win a championship, the better. And I think he has a lot to motivate him.
What is it, is it that Doc Rivers uses? You mentioned the motivation factor, but is there anything like the way that Doc Rivers uses him that has kind of brought more out of him?
Well, one thing, now I'm not saying, and I make sure I always preface this statement by saying this. I'm not saying Doc Rivers is better than Brett Brown. I'm just saying it's different. Now, one thing that is entirely different is less plays, is less different schemes. A lot of it, hey, man, just go get a bucket. Get that ball over there, just go do what you do. And I think that little freedom to be able to break a play, to go try to attempt to be offensively aggressive, I think helps Tobias. I think he's more of a flow type of guy. In the heat of the moment, when the game's up and down, just go flow, man. Just go out there and play and just have fun and do what you do. It's not, okay, let's stop. Let's run this play. Let's do this. Let's get this action. Sometimes the game is made to be simple. And I think that's one thing that Doc Rivers is doing.
Yeah.
He's keeping the game simple.
Yeah, and I've definitely. I mean, I guess one thing that I see, and I didn't play at the level. I didn't play at any level compared to what you did, Mark. Obviously, but the decisiveness. I see a guy who decisively knows what he wants to do when the ball comes his way. Where before, you know, he would get that ball and then he's dribbling, crisscrossing his legs. He's like, I don't know what I want to do. Now he has a decisive motion immediately when he gets that ball.
Downhill, go at your guy, put him on his heels. That's what he's been doing all season. And it seemed like after he didn't get the All-Star nod, he's been doing it even more and being more effective at it.
Yeah, and the catch and shoot, too. He's much better on the catch and shoot.
Absolutely.
Mark Jackson.
Absolutely. Keeping it simple.
Mark Jackson's with us. As we know in this series, they have no answer for Joel Embiid. But does any matchup in these Eastern Conference playoffs have an answer for Joel Embiid?
Listen, here's the thing. Joel Embiid is the biggest, baddest dude on the planet. That's just a fact. You bring a guy his size in, an Alex Lynn or Robin Lopez or Brett Lopez, whoever Lopez or whatever you want to bring. They may be his size, but they don't have his footwork. They don't have his agility. They don't have those things. So then you come smaller. You bring some of these stretch forwards in. You know what? Let's try to bring Joel away from the basket. Then he just totally punishes them and dominates them. There's no answers. Respectfully, Washington Wizards have no answer. Respectfully, the Knicks or the Hawks don't have an answer. Respectfully, the Bucks or the Heat or the Nets do not have an answer for Joel Embiid.
When you watch him, it's hard to compare him to anybody. Like I said, there's never been another player like this. Would you agree that there's not another player that's comparable? He's like 5 players wrapped into one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joel Embiid is a special talent. I know we see him as just this big guy with his great footwork, shooting ability, but we just say those things like everyone has those skills and those capabilities. They don't. They don't. Not everyone has that package that he does. And when you open that package, if it's Christmas, you see that every day. You are the happiest child in the face of the earth on Christmas Day because his package is the presence. It's like a prize and a gift every time he steps on the floor.
Yeah, Brett Brown once said he mentioned that he was the key to the whole universe. This was before he even played. This was back when he was just practicing before he ever stepped onto the floor. It's crazy to see it all kind of come true. And you watch this guy, how much he's matured, because he was a good player. He was a great player at 24, but at 27, he's taking it to another level. And then when you see the areas of passing the ball out of the double teams, but some of the footwork, Mark, have you seen a big guy with the footwork that he has?
No, not since Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, this guy's footwork is unmatched. If he was a boxer, he'd probably be Floyd Mayweather. I mean, his ability to move his feet, to make adjustments, to do certain things is just credit to him and his development. Because you go back, and sometimes people like to post those clips of him when he first came over and was playing in high school. You look at that player and you look at this guy now, that's called development. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is a guy who's developed himself from scratch and now has made himself the best low-post scorer in the NBA.
All right, Mark, how should or could the Sixers use Matisse Thybulle? How do they implement him? Is 20 minutes enough for what he's bringing them?
I think 20 minutes is the perfect amount for him now. Because they have so much talent that they have to make room for everybody because everyone could do certain things. And 20 minutes is good. He's very productive in that. And when we play, hopefully we get to that point we play against the Nets. If that's the case, he'll be playing a little bit more. I guarantee that. Yeah,
if they can get him to hit those open jumpers, man, he's going to be a scary guy playing 28, 30 minutes in the future here. What about the whole, how do you use Maxey? Do you give him more or is 14 enough? How do you kind of play that?
So let's talk about Maxey. Maxey, to me, has I know he has these coaches in the locker room or in the meeting rooms arguing about should he play more, should he play less. They have to be arguing about this guy because every time they put him on the floor, he's productive. Every time they put him on the floor, he produces. Every time they put him on the floor, it makes everyone not in that locker room like, yo, why this guy's not playing? So I'm quite sure them coaches be having some heated debates about Maxey. My only thing is, I believe maybe the reason why he's not playing consistent minutes is because of his age. And they say, you know what? sooner or later, a young bonehead mistake from a young kid, like we all was, is going to make a mistake at the wrong time, and they're just trying to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I like. It's almost like Doc says, I just don't know if I can put my full trust in him yet. I like him, but I don't know if I can trust him with a full role. So let me just put the breadcrumbs out there and see how far he goes with it, because he certainly provides a spark. I mean, do you think that he has supplanted Milton as that kind of energy guy off the bench?
Now, see, that's my thing. Shake has been consistent off the bench, giving us scoring. And I seen one play where Shea came off a pick and he was wide open for the mid-range. He normally would have shot it, and he second-guessed it and did not shoot it. One thing we cannot do is vary too much from success. Shea coming off the bench have been labeled as, we need you to get buckets. He needs to consistently be told that, Shea, that's what you do, don't change from it. Because he's been doing it against everyone. Even when he schemed, he's been doing it against everyone in every kind of defense. I think we still need Shake to give us points off the bench because he did it the entire year.
Yeah.
Even when he went out with the ankle injury, he came back and was still consistent at it.
Well, you know what, Mark? There's some games, that Clipper game, of course, comes to mind, but there was a couple other ones this year where he has that look and he just shoots it and he knows it's going in. And I guess as a guy who played in the league, do you ever have that night where you're just like, I know tonight I'm having my night, and the other night you're like, man, how come I can't have a night like I did the other night?
You know what? Consistency makes you know what's going to happen. When you constantly put the work in off the court, then when you're on the court, you get the same role you've had. You know what you're going to do. There's no, is this going to happen? No, you know what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So once that happens, you're fine. You know what's going to happen. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't like them fluctuating his minutes. He showed what he can do the entire 72 games. Why would we change it now? I think those minutes from him is important because he produces offensively.
Marc Jackson, I do want to get your take then on what George Hill has brought to this team and what he brings for this team moving forward here, because they made that trade, and I don't know that we got a chance to see a lot in the regular season how they intended to use him, because when they got him, he was hurt, and then when he was ready to play, Ben was out, and then, Curry was out. So how does George Hill kind of bring this all together?
George Hill is a veteran. He's been there, done that. He's a person that can hit an open shot. He could defend. He could distribute. So that gives you another person you don't have to worry about having a flaw. And most important with that is he's a veteran player. You don't have to worry about having many flaws. And you're going to play that guy when crunch time comes. You know what you have in him because he showed that since he first stepped foot in the league.
If Curry doesn't play, is there any concern?
There's always concern when a shooter doesn't play. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping Curry will just have a little ankle roll and he'll be fine. I won't be surprised if they're sitting because the team is kind of rolling and Westbrook is kind of banged up. I wouldn't be surprised if they're sitting just to kind of save him, to make sure they save him from himself. But I wouldn't be concerned, no.
Yeah, and if he doesn't go, what do you use Hill there? Or you go with Milton, or you go with Maxey?
I think everybody play the same minutes. I think people will get increased minutes, but I think Maxey would get some more minutes as well.
All right, Marc Jackson, the Sixers, Saturday night, 7 o'clock, and then Memorial Day Monday, 7 o'clock, NBC Sports. You can watch him pregame live, postgame live with the coach, and, of course, Amy Fadul on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Marc Jackson, have a great weekend, bud.
Thanks, guys. You too. I'm always here for you.
At Jacko2544 on Twitter. He says, Joel Embiid is the biggest, baddest dude on the planet.